Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Wars, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Episode 4, and my thoughts on this episode. It was a short episode, and it was a boring episode, and there's plot holes, and vehicles that are acting strangely, and characters that seem to get away with bloody murder and just allowed to do what the fuck they want. I mean, it was just a ridiculously stupid episode at points. And there's this one creepy scene in it that was just unnecessary. I mean, there was one part I did like, and that was with a certain trooper that got introduced in live action. But other than that, yeah, this episode wasn't good. And I just want to get straight into spoilers because I just can't be asked to really review this. There's nothing really here. The episode was short, it was boring, and still a shitload of plot holes. So, let's go into spoilers now. I'm going to give this episode out of 10 a 2, because introducing that trooper was actually kind of interesting. But yeah, that's all I'm giving this, a 2. So, if you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So the episode starts off with Obi-Wan unconscious on a transport with the Imperial officer, well, the traitor female officer, trying to keep him conscious and getting him to some sort of safe area where she's working with the group that she works with. They're pretty much trying to put this as like the rebellion, but they keep calling it something else. But it's basically the rebellion at this point. So yeah, she gets Obi-Wan to a Bacta tank where we start seeing him in the Bacta tank and Vader in the Bacta tank, and I did like this scene because it kind of shows that they're both, you know, still together, and when I mean together, I mean like connected to the Force. So, you know, you see Vader's scars and you see that Obi-Wan now has scars, which is kind of stupid in my opinion, because that really shouldn't have happened again. None of this should be happening. Obi-Wan should never have seen Vader again until the Death Star. Again, this whole thing is stupid. But, yeah, well, we've got to deal with the cards we're dealt. So, Obi-Wan's got scars now, but he kind of is uncomfortable being in the Bacta tank, so he tries to get out, and then the traitor Imperial officer woman tells him he needs to go back in the Bacta tank so his body will heal, but he can't do that because he needs to go save Leia, because Leia is the most important thing now, apparently. Again, Luke Skywalker left on Tatooine on his own, shit knows what could be happening to him. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, nothing did happen to him. Yes, but please. I mean, this whole thing is a disaster. Because if you watch when you watch New Hope, when you see the message sent by Leia to Obi-Wan, does it sound like she's met him before? Yeah? Or does it sound like she has never met this guy and is literally just been sent by her dad to find him? Because it is ridiculous how they're getting to know each other, Leia and Ben. Oh, and some arsehole is going to say she probably never heard of Obi-Wan, but come on. It's, oh. Anyway, again, canon breaking shit at this point. Anyway, so Obi-Wan tries to convince the Imperial officer to help him, you know, break in to the most secure place in the galaxy, because they find out that Leia has been taken by the Inquisitors to the Inquisitorium, or whatever the fuck the building's called, and it's in the Mustafar system, so near Vader. That matters. And Obi-Wan asks Ice Cube's son. I don't know his name. That's all I know him as. He's Ice Cube's son. He played him in, you know, whatever. It's Ice Cube's son, basically. And he asks him, can you help me get into the Inquisitorium and, you know, free Leia? He says he can't do that because it's impossible, there's too much defences. And when he shows him the layout of the building, Obi-Wan notices that this place doesn't have any shields. And then Ice Cube's son pretty much says, well, they don't need shields because they know they're never going to be attacked because nobody's that stupid. I kind of love how, you know, the Empire's just that confident. They don't have shields. It's like, it's so fucking ridiculous. Like, of course they'd have shields. Of course they would. Anyway, so everyone tries to convince this group of people, and they pretty much say no, but the woman Imperial officer says, yes, she'll help. And Obi-Wan says how, and says, oh, she's still got clearance. And Obi-Wan says, you sure it's going to work? And she says, we'll find out. So they get on the transport and they head off to the Inquisitorium. Even though the ship's not Imperial and I doubt it has the right codes. But fuck it, right? I mean, a secure Imperial base is just going to let some random fucking ship into it. So fucking ridiculous. Like, if you keep making the Empire seem this incompetent, how the fuck did it survive this long? Like, seriously. Like, you couldn't have had them in a shuttle, an Imperial shuttle, a TIE fighter, something Imperial. Not some random transport, but... Ugh. So, at the Inquisitorium, Leia is being interrogated. Yes, I said that. Leia is being interrogated by a fucking... the third sister. And I'm just going to get through all this shit fast. Okay, because this was just ridiculous. So, the third sister keeps asking Leia where the rebels are. Leia says she's not going to say anything. She keeps trying to tell her she's not going to tell, you know, the Inquisitor what she knows. And then the third sister keeps threatening and threatening and threatening. And I thought we were finally going to, you know, hear the story about how she became an Inquisitor. Which would have actually made sense for her to tell Leia this. I mean, you're trying to get this girl to, you know, talk to you. Would it not make sense to kind of show some emotion instead of just being an evil bitch? But that's all she was doing. And it was just so boring to watch. And again, I'd had more respect for this show if they had Leia give up the rebels. She's a kid. I kind of think people would have forgiven her for giving in to the Inquisitor. I mean, come on. She's only 10. Like, I know they're trying to show her as this powerful woman and all that shit. But, again, making Leia show a mistake would actually be interesting for her character. So this whole back and forth between the Inquisitor happens for some time. And so the Inquisitor, the third sister just gives up and says, well, if you're not going to tell me, I'm going to torture the fuck out of you, basically. Which is what she does. So Stormtrooper grabs Leia and puts her in a torture chair. At this same point, the shuttle with Obi-Wan and the the Imperial officer woman land on the platform, but Obi-Wan manages to jump into the lake, well, the ocean first, so he can swim into the base. So the Imperial woman officer, you know, marches through this secure base, and when she finally gets to a security checkpoint, this scene just really pissed me off. It's like, so you've checked her ID, she's not supposed to be here, you've not been told that she's expected, you've not been told jack shit, and so all you've basically done is question her for 2 seconds. She gives you a little bit of pushback and you just let her walk in because she mentions Inquisitors. Then why not call the Inquisitor and ask her or him or whoever, did you ask for this certain Imperial officer to come to the base? And he doesn't, because the female officer just goes up to him and threatens him basically, and he just acts like a bitch and lets her through. Just lets her through. And I thought that was just ridiculous. I mean, again, people are going to say this is not a real thing, like, again, but come on. How can the Imperials be this disorganised? How can they be this stupid? Makes no sense. Again, you're making the Imperials just look dumb, so they just look less of a threat every fucking episode or every fucking series you put them in. so she gets through the security. She goes down to I don't know, a library or something, or an IT place. Gets on a computer and turns off a security net so Obi-Wan Kenobi can swim in and get into the base, and he does. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi chokes out a stormtrooper and then cracks his neck. Doesn't put on the uniform, which I think that would have made more sense if Obi-Wan Kenobi was walking around in Imperial armour. Like, for God's sake, if he was dressed up like a stormtrooper, it would look less, well, it would look more normal and less weird than seeing an old man walking around. I mean, come on. Like, he can go undercover as a stormtrooper and get close to Leia. But fuck it. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is just looking around, trying to see if he can find Leia. And then we come across this secure area that nobody's allowed in except the Inquisitors. And it's just this weird fucking, I don't know, tomb? Where they just put all the dead Jedi. At least some of the dead Jedi. They put them in, what's it called? Carbonite. At least that's what I think. Because you start seeing like old Jedi, and then there's like this scene where you see a youngling, which is just weird. Like, there is no need for this scene. Like, we know the Inquisitors are bad, but this just makes them look freaks. I mean, again, over the top. And just ridiculous at the same time. So, Obi-Wan manages to figure out where Leia is, but he needs more time to get to her. Because the Inquisitor is about to, torture her. So, the Imperial officer woman... Oh, there was a fight between the woman and another Imperial officer. She just kills him and then just gets straight back to work. Yeah. So, the female Imperial officer goes to distract the Inquisitor for a few minutes and tries to convince the third sister that she's a spy for the Empire who has managed to get in with the rebels. And the third sister pretty much knows that she's lying. Doesn't torture her, doesn't choke her, doesn't cut a limb off. They just have this stupid back and forth conversation that was just weird. Like, apparently you can, look into the mind of Uncle Owen, but you can't with an Imperial officer. Like, okay. So, Obi-Wan gets to Leia, he kills the two stormtroopers. Oh, by the way, how the fuck is it a fucking Imperial gate is stronger than a lightsaber? Because in the last episode, at that checkpoint, it can cut a stormtrooper in two. But a lightsaber can't. Doesn't that seem a bit stupid to anybody? Because it fucking does me. Like, how the hell... How did that even happen? Like, how does that... So you can cut stormtroopers up. Just, you can't be a Jedi who does it with a lightsaber? It's dumb. It really is. It's absolutely dumb. Anyway, so Obi-Wan manages to free Leia. They get out of the secure area of the Inquisitorium, and whilst the third Inquisitor then hears the alarm and realises it's Obi-Wan, she runs back to try and stop him and just tells two stormtroopers to grab the female Imperial officer. And at this moment, we all fucking knew what she was going to do: escape. So the Inquisitor couldn't just stab her quickly with a lightsaber. Just stab her quickly. Anyway, so she kills the two stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan is then having to deal with a shitload of other stormtroopers that are chasing him. I kind of liked the fight between him and the stormtroopers. I love the fact he's pushing back their bolts. And this is also where we see the Purge Trooper, which I actually loved seeing. Again, I think the Purge Troopers kind of make sense. I don't understand why the Inquisitorium doesn't just have Purge Troopers. Like, shouldn't that make more sense? Like, they're the Inquisitor's stormtroopers, aren't they? But why? Anyway, so I kind of like seeing them. Obi-Wan's fighting with, the stormtroopers and the Inquisitor troopers. but one of the bolts hits the glass. He has to hold the glass because the water's starting to come in, and he needs to protect Leia. But the female Imperial officer gets there in time, grabs Leia, and Obi-Wan manages to push the water at the stormtroopers and runs to safety. And the stormtroopers and the Inquisitor trooper all get killed. So the plan is for them to escape, which was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen, because apparently the base has gone to lockdown, which is the most stupidest lockdown I've ever seen, because you haven't shut any fucking doors or anything. So the female Imperial officer gives Obi-Wan a disguise. Not that much of a good disguise, but it was okay for like 2 seconds. And just tells Leia to just stick close to them. So you got an old man, a girl, an Imperial officer just walking through all these security people. You've literally been told there's a fucking child on the loose, and she's the only child on the base. How can she be... I mean, how can these stormtroopers, how can these officers all be that stupid not to see what is happening here? Fucking hell. So they're about to get near the ship and escape, but then the third sister arrives with a shitload of stormtroopers and 2 purge troopers and pretty much tells them, you're not going to escape, I'm going to kill you and stop you and blah 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 blah. And then 2 snow speeders arrive just in time and blow the fuck out of the base. These are snow speeders, and apparently they can hover, which they can't do. Because it would make... If they could hover, why didn't they do that on fucking Hoth? Would have made it easier going round the fucking, you know, walkers, wouldn't it? Fucking hell. So, this Imperial base is so weak, 2 snow speeders can just attack it and wipe out nearly half the fucking garrison there. Jesus Christ. So, the snow speeders get there. They destroy most of the stormtroopers. One snowspeeder lands and grabs Obi-Wan, Leia, and the female Imperial officer. They then rush away, but before they get away, the fourth brother tells one of the robots to suicide bomb the second snowspeeder that's got only a man in it, blows it up. And I'm just like, well, why didn't they just do that in the first place? So you have these bombs ready to go, and you didn't use them till they were escaping. You had the ships, like, right in front of you. Just order those drones to do that at the start, and Obi-Wan doesn't get away. Oh, Jesus. I mean, you could have had it be a TIE fighter pilot, or an accident. So fucking dumb. Again, just the Empire is just incompetent for no reason. So the first speeder gets away, and Obi-Wan gets picked up by the rebels, and then they are speeded off somewhere safe. But it turns out the third sister has planted a bug on Luna, Leia's robot. We find this out because Vader confronts the third sister, begins to choke her, but the third sister, well, basically for a failure, but the third sister tells him what she's done, and that she's pretty much now got a tracker on Kenobi, and Vader now has a way to find Obi-Wan Kenobi again. And that's how the episode ends. It's a dumb episode. Again, I just have no hope for this series. Thank God we've only got 2 episodes left before this shit is done. This is as bad as The Last Jedi. And you'll pretty much see, you are seeing Disney reaction to it, and it's pretty much panic. Because they thought this show was going to be a hit. Like a massive hit. Like everybody would love it. It would be just like, you know, The Mandalorian. Nope, it turns out when you bring back a character people love and then fuck him up to death, people get angry. And my advice to Disney is stop calling everybody racist because I don't like your fucking shit show. And that's the end of my review. I have no faith in this series, and it's just going to break more and more canon. And that's it. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think of subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.